Aho, ladies, gentlemen, gamers, and fellow Chris Allen enjoyers. Welcome back. All right, it's been quite a while. So, we're not reacting to anything. We are talking about things, but we're not talking about anything kind of gaming related, although that's might be on the menu. This is going to be really messy. This is going to be really sloppy, and I thought of a bunch of different ways to do this in my head, but sadly, probably none of those ways are going to work their way into reality. So, it is what it is, but we're going to get into that. Partly. So, it's with my great enthusiasm, ladies and gentlemen, that I welcome everyone to another Chris Allen reaction. Wow, I know! It's been so long, right? It's been very, very long. I believe this is Chris Allen, or no, sorry, not Chris Allen reaction. What am I saying? Chris Allen recap. My apologies. So, I'm not going to edit this at all, as I don't do with most of my videos, but, that's why this is going to be really sloppy. But it's been quite a while since the last Chris Allen recap, as I've dubbed them, cars. So the last one was in February 26th of 2023. We are now in 2024, November. So what happened? What happened in between this time that it's been happening? So essentially, a lot has happened, a lot has changed, a lot has not changed, and the main driver for this video, to be completely honest with everyone, is today was my first day of reemployment. Now, it was kind of a fake day because it was orientation, so nothing really happened, and in the coming days, and possibly weeks, a lot of stuff might not happen. It might be really chill, and a big part of this video might be me overreacting, but either way, I'm trying to look at the bad and the good of things, and we're going to discuss that. Hopefully, we're going to discuss a lot of things, so strap yourselves in. But essentially, me getting this job, and I won't say too much information for fear of getting doxxed or getting found out in real life once I become famous, me getting this job for the foreseeable future has caused me to suffer. Now, again, I've been in kind of a loop. So since February 26th of 2023, back then, I believe I was still employed. Was I still employed? It was 2023, 2024. Yeah, no, I was still employed at that point. So by the near end of 2023 is when I got unemployed. And basically, in terms of the Chris Allen recaps, I went radio silent because even though some things changed, one of the themes that I want to bring up here is that even though there's good change, bad change can also be good. Now, that's the part of me that's trying to view what happened here, at least today. I say it as if it's some sort of big natural disaster event. But basically what happened to me today, I'm trying to view it in both a positive light, because God knows I'm viewing it in a negative light. But either way, this is where me getting this job has really shifted me into different gears. Number one, it's made me realize, because I've already known this, but I absolutely hate working. Like, dear Lord, I really hate working. And one of the things that I think prompted one of the earlier Chris Allen recaps, I'm so tempted to call them reactions, and I don't know why. One of the things that prompted the earlier Chris Allen recaps is this already kind of happened in the past, believe it or not. I used to work at Rockefeller Center, and I won't really describe more than that, but I used to work there, and I kind of went through a similar conundrum where the job I had there is probably going to be way worse than the job I have here. The job I have now, without getting into too much detail, is probably going to be the best job I have to date. Number one, because the pay is the best I've ever had. But number two, because even like work schedule wise, it's good. The only thing that's not good is the commute, but that could be, offset by some of the remote days. Which, yes, I might have remote days. Crazy. I never thought I would get to this point, but either way, this is where, even though what I have now is probably the best thing ever, I'm going through a similar conundrum as I did back then, because what I went through back then, even though it was way, way worse in reality, in my mind, both of these things are almost equal, because what ends up happening and what ended up happening with me at Rockefeller is quite similar, where I got the Rockefeller job right after pandemic, and with pandemic came a really big break. And after my last job, I got a really big break. So I basically got used to unemployment. And once I get used to something, you know, I basically get very routined into it, as some people might know. And for those of you who don't know, I should have put this more at the beginning, but like I said, this is going to definitely be a more rambling thing. I don't even know if I'm going to post this, but I also forgot to say I am naked during these because the best thoughts happen not only when I'm sad, but when I'm naked. But either way, this is where what ended up happening back then was because it was such a big shift from my routine, my mind basically broke. And again, subjectively speaking, the job back then was way worse. I had no internet. I had to basically stare at a wall for the better part of 5+ hours. And you really want to torture someone? Bore them to death. Literally take away any sensory like things. Sensory deprivation is one of the worst tortures you could have. But either way, even though the job back then was basically torture, this job feels like torture because, even though it's better, because it really makes me hate working. Now, this is nothing new, right? And I'm gonna get very, not to an extreme extent, but I'm gonna get pretty personal because the name of the series is Chris Allen Recap. So we're recapping me here. We're not recapping gaming news, which is sadly mostly gotcha news. Sometimes League, sometimes Fortnite, the usual gauntlet of games that I play that I'm stuck to playing because I'm routined. But this is gonna be definitely themed around me. So basically, because we're going all over the place anyway here, that job and this job right now have basically taken me out of my routine. And that makes my mind break. Now, back in the day with the previous car, I believe I said that what ends up happening when these jobs come around, and what ends up happening when I really start freaking out, and this is kind of part of the bad thing about this job. I'm going through suffering, but many people are suffering if they're employed, in my opinion, um, in different ways. But one of the best things that comes out of suffering is it inspires change. Now, sadly, the change for me seems to be mostly fleeting because back then I was thinking so many different things. I was thinking of new ideas for YouTube, new ideas for content creation, which, some panned out, most really didn't. But I was thinking like, wow, I could practice artistry, I could like get into drawing, I could practice my drawing, which I did for a grand total of like maybe like 10 to 15 minutes and then I gave it up because I'm shit. But other things, we stick with. Now, this is where basically what ended up happening was it inspired change. And one of the best things maybe to come out of this whole job thing is it's reforcing me to rethink about things because when you're unemployed, you're kind of thinking in a different way. Now, the sad reality is for the near future, I don't know when I'm going to do another Chris Allen recap here, but at least you're getting this one, right? This is where for the immediate future, obviously I know the way it is. There's going to be a transition period. But once I'm in this job, once I get out of the job, I don't know if I'll make another Chris Allen recap and see how things are, but once I get into the routine, I'm very scared to break it, and I knew this would happen because in my last job I was thinking it, and I know myself very well. And I knew once I lose the job, I'm basically going to take a big break, my previous job, and I did. And I knew if I do that, it would be really hard to retransition back into a job because one of the greatest things, one of the things that a lot of people take for granted multiple times is time. We do not have a lot of time. As I get older, I feel like time is passing me by ever so quickly. I'm 26 years old, which by gaming standards is grandpa age. But realistically speaking, here, I still have a lot of my life ahead of me, but it's crazy to think that 10 years ago I was 16. And, for the better part, I'm still pretty young in most standards, but man, having so much time in my day, and the worst part was I got used to it. I had so much time, and I didn't feel like I had that much time. Now going back to work and having most of my time taken from me, now I really feel like I have no time. Now time feels even more precious, which is why I'm here making this video. This is where one of the good things I think to come out of the job, like I said, is it forces change. At the very least, it forces me to change my thinking, which is again why we're getting this Chris Allen recap. Just to kind of organize my ideas, again, give people an update on me, and maybe hopefully help someone with their thoughts, maybe inspire new thoughts. But I find I think I need to find a justification for everything, so there's a couple right there for why I'm making this video. Either way, though, the job basically has prompted me to think, and basically, I think I'm in a state of mania, which is also why I really wanted to do this video quick. I literally just got home, just made my dinner, and it's almost what 10:30 at night. So when you have a job, and people who have a job know, you really have no time. It feels like most of the day is gone. Now, sadly, this is where it's probably going to affect my health, where I really feel not well not having some of my day to myself because most of it is not mine anymore, sadly. But some of my day not being myself forces me to kind of get it back at night. And nowadays they have like a new name for everything. So I don't want to say this is some medical thing or not, even though now they say it is. But essentially speaking, um this idea that oh now that it's nighttime and you're trying to get hours back is something they dub like I forgot what it was, but it was all over TikTok, ironically enough. But essentially speaking, now that I have a job, my health is probably going to decline again because I'm losing sleep, because I'm trying to gain back my time, the most important resource anyone can ever have. But that's going to probably cost me later down the line health wise. But you know, sometimes we don't think long termly. But at the same time, I am. So, like I said before, this job isn't going to be long term. And one of the biggest things that I was thinking about is, basically for the past year and change, I really just, I don't want to say lazed around. I did do studying, I did do this and that, I also got my insurance license. I can sell insurance in my state now, which is cool. And that was a whole debacle, but it's not like I've remained stagnant, but in the grand scheme of things, I really haven't done anything too crazy, but that's what I like. Now, the sad reality is, and maybe you can say COVID caused this. I don't know if I'm just naturally like this because we all know a lot of people don't like working, but I feel like I really, really don't like working. Which again, I'm going so crazy. I'm actually making a Chris Allen recap here, but this is essentially where this Chris Allen recap is partly to do with how I viewed myself in the past. So a lot of the Chris Allen recaps are me talking about myself, but also me talking about different ideas. And one of the things that happened in work today that kind of I wanted to mention with these Chris Allen recaps, and not only do I want to go over the past, which, like I said, nothing basically happened. I lazed around for a year, even though I learned a little bit of stuff. I also want to go over the future, and this is where, sadly, I'm right with most of my assumptions, and this might get depressing. But, for those of you who want news, here's the news. But one of the things that they asked at work today in the orientation, because we obviously were meeting with senior people, was they asked senior people like, "Oh yeah, what would you tell your younger self?" Right? Like, what was hard about the journey, this, and that. And I kind of thought about that here. I thought about my past self in the Chris on recaps because as time has gone on, I feel like I've been more beaten and bruised just by life and just by how things are, which I'll get into soon. Exterior from the job. But again, the job is the big catalyst for this, so I'm spending the most time on it. But looking back at my previous self, and I'm looking at some of the titles for the old Chris Allen recaps. The world might burn, but we might live. COVID boy strikes again. All these things. I was very hopeful. And in many ways, I'm still hopeful because as time goes on, certain plans come into fruition, certain don't. I do see some of a light at the end of the tunnel, but I really don't like the tunnel I'm in. And work kind of reminded me of that. Being unemployed, being in my bubble, having my routine, I basically had a routine of distraction. And again, this is where the job does good things and it does bad things. And the sad reality is, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but the sad reality is, I think people can only truly understand things by going through them. It's very rare to find a person as empathetic as possible where they can understand something without having to go through it. And this is where having to sort of go through working and go through this suffering of having a job, and again, I'm acting like it's some natural disaster, but to me it really feels like it. It basically puts me into thinking mode. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to do this. What can I do to get a way out? Now, obviously, I don't want to do illegal stuff. I don't want to like murder the rich and eat them and take all their money. Maybe that's a joke. That's a joke. But at the end of the day, right? Suffering brings about change. Now, hopefully, it's good change. Hopefully, it's not bad change. But suffering makes me think, and obviously, like I said, we've seen it in the past where I had like glimpses of, oh, maybe I could edit this, maybe I could do these content ideas, which prompted me to make a new channel at the also behest of my friends. But it's all these things where it's like now that I have this new job, because I'm in this transitory period, things are kind of crazy. I'm kind of manic. and things are basically at the height of if they could change, essentially. But going back to what I said, so looking at the past me and the Chris on recaps, I was more hopeful about certain things, especially about streaming, about content creation. Now, especially with the job starting back up, even though, that was really now I have a reason. This is more of an excuse. When I was unemployed for the past year and stuff, I didn't really do anything content wise, and that's because I've redefined kind of what I want. Excuse me. And as I've gotten older, I've especially sort of realized a lot of different things where, you obviously have to take the good and bad with everything and hopefully focus on the better more than the worse. But when I was little, right, and the whole reason, because I always need a justification, like I said before, the whole reason why I do certain things and the whole reason why certain things are done is because I have a very clear mindset with it. And that's not to say that I don't have multiple ideas with this thing. But for content creation, it was really in the past because of, I don't want to say envy, but more of inspiration. I grew up in the era of Minecraft, of PewDiePie, Captain Sparkles. I'm trying to think who else, it's been so long. But essentially, I saw these people playing games, having fun, and I play games and I have fun. But I also knew that, I can't do this forever. I need to get a life. And sadly, now I have one, well, what resembles one. And basically, a big part of it was, I did hope I would get famous. Now, that's not all I hoped, but it's really good that I didn't get famous, especially back then, because as time went on, I've matured. Now, obviously, with the way I do things, not only is it very contradictory, both with my, life, with the jobs, right? Because the argument then becomes, if I hate jobs, why don't I work as hard as possible so I don't have to work a lot later on? Basically, the FIRE movement, retire early. That makes logical sense, but I just don't want to work in general, so I can't bring myself past that point. But regardless, in terms of content creation, now that I have the job, now there's really a good excuse for it. But my content creation has pretty much been something that's just easy for me now. And basically, with streaming, with content creation, and I guess going forward for the future, I think I've said this in the past where I kind of want the direction going. I don't know if it's the same as this, but now this is the most recent one, so this takes precedence. It's pretty much just doing what I like. And it's kind of been like that for a long time, even if I didn't know it or even if I didn't say it. Streaming really is just, I want to chill, I want to hang out. I do want to show some things. I really like the idea of just having a log of things. It's one of my personal preferences. But in terms of doing things that people want, I also do want to do that, but I've come to the realization that again, sometimes I need an excuse for this, but now I have a good one with work. Sometimes it's really hard for me to do new things because I'm pretty sure I have probably some mental problems. But the past me was a lot more hopeful at my ability to change. The current me, and this could change in the future again for better or for worse, but the current me is kind of knowing how things are going to go, and whether that's a self fulfilling prophecy or not, who really knows? But going in the future, I'm basically just going to do what I want. So that sounds very open ended, but it's also very close minded because I'm basically giving myself an excuse to keep doing what I'm doing, which is, reacting to the gotchas, making the one off opinion league videos here and there. And I'm honestly fine if they don't get views. And for a long time, I've basically had to face that reality, which I think I faced pretty well. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be famous because it comes with a lot of annoyance. I do want to be rich, but there's other ways that you could be rich, which hopefully, I can get to. And hopefully everyone else can get to being rich in whatever way that's least resistant to them. But this is where at the end of the day, I truly do know that I love games and I love streaming for the pure fact that if I was rich, I'm 99% positive now. I say 99 because I don't like to deal in absolutes, but in the future, you never know what would actually happen. You don't know how you're going to change. So I always like to leave the door a little bit open, but I'm 99% sure. Well, I'm 100% sure no matter what, I'd be playing games if I was rich. I'm 99% sure I would probably still be streaming though. And, I think being, for lack of a better word, a small time streamer is somewhat of a blessing in disguise because, again, you don't get all of the bad publicity and the bad viewership, rather, as well because there's always bad apples in the bunch when you get that big. There's people who hate you literally for just being you. But being a small streamer, it actually does let me interact with people, and I see some of these big streamers chats, and I get so confused. I'm like, all these people, these like tens of thousands of people are typing, they're talking, and they're never going to be seen by the streamer. And I'm just sitting there, I'm questioning, like, do they not realize, like, what they're typing is getting lost in a sea of messages? Where at that point, I'm thinking either A, they're just stupid, which sadly is most of Twitch chat, or B, they're just hoping in, like, the 0.0001% chance, basically winning the lottery, that the streamer actually sees their comment, and then winning the lottery twice or lightning striking twice, they actually acknowledge it and say something on it. Because most of these comments are freaking dumb anyway. But regardless, this is where we'll bring it back to me because I already knew this was going to go all over the place. So, in terms of content creation, in terms of streaming, now that the job is here, even though, again, I'm at the biggest point where change could happen, it probably won't because I knew what to expect, and this transitionary period, this manic period, is probably going to go down, and I'm probably overreacting as I mostly am, but it still happens every time, so we're here. But in terms of the future and just in terms of how I'm doing, obviously right now at this very moment, I'm heavily, heavily suffering. At this point, it's almost 11 at night because this is going to go for a while. And I just finished my dinner, and again, I'm naked. And I'm just thinking, like, wow, I'm not going to get sleep, so I'm going to feel like shit during my days now. It's going to affect my health. And I'm just going to have no time. And the biggest thing I value, I don't know if I said this before, but it's freedom. Now, even if that freedom, at least for me, comes with just lazing around and not really doing it for anything, I like that feeling. I like the feeling of I don't need to do anything. I like no pressure. Now, is that realistic? Is that good? I don't think so. And this is where the job could be a good thing because, again, it's giving me skills, it's giving me money, first of all, but it's also getting me off my ass. And again, at certain points, it is inspiring me through suffering to change. So hopefully that will actually result in something, but who knows, at the very least, again, we're getting things like this car. But regardless, so in terms of outside of the job, though, I would say sadly, and again, this is where I'll go to my past self where I was a lot more hopeful, not just with content creation, but with a lot of other things. I don't think I'll ever lose hope with things, but things are really not going well in terms of everything outside the job. I'm 26 years old, and again, this is where it might get a little too personal, but regardless, it'll be out there. This is where I'm 26 years old. I basically have no romantical prospects. I really have no interest besides money, which I think everyone kind of who's not rich has an interest in. And even if you're rich, you have an interest in it. But at that point, you don't need to. But basically, I have an interest in basically just money and games and really nothing else. And it's an issue, right? I don't know how to not be interested or how to be interested in other things besides the things I already am interested in. It's like trying to force love. You can't force love when it's not there. The same way I feel like you can't force interest. Now, obviously, there's reframing your opinion, there's reframing how you look at things, there's maybe not knowing the actual reality of things. Maybe I'll like something and I just think I won't, so I don't go into it. We can always explore further down all these rabbit holes that can extend this video past its time, but we're not going to do that. So, in other words, though, in essentially the prospects of how I've been, my unemployment time has probably been one of the best times. I got to reconnect more with my friends. I basically got the thing I valued the most, which is freedom. And one of the biggest things was I got to spend time with my family. Now, that's a blessing and a curse in disguise because, for those of you who don't know, my family is pretty old. And they're basically at the last end of their strings, at least one of them is. And, to kind of pull the cat out of the bag here, they have dementia. And it's really not an easy thing. And I doubt you guys can even hear it right now. Well, guys and gals, I don't want to be pandering to just one side of the audience here. Because obviously girls watch these videos. But even right now, as I'm speaking this, one of my family members who has the dementia bad, he's literally in the other room, like, yelling right now. And I really hope it's not being picked up by the mic. But regardless, this is where dealing with these things, dealing with old people, and dealing with the family situation, which I won't go too far into, but that I am in, and it's really causing me a lot of strife and discord. Not related to the app. It's really tough because now I have the job on top of me. Now I have like the worsening family situation, where the sad part is, the house is supposed to be your bastion of safety. Your house is supposed to be where things are good, and your family is supposed to be there to support you. And when it's the other way around in both respects, when your house is not a place of, I don't want to say safety, it's not like I'm in danger and, I need people to call the cops for me to either help me or whatever. But, my house is basically not a place where I am calm and where I am relaxed. It's a place where stress happens, strife happens, and arguments happen a lot. And it's basically arguments like talking to a wall because these people have dementia. So, on the family aspect, things are not going well, and that was kind of one of my last bastions of hope. Now, again, I know this is going to get into doom and gloom and stuff, and I don't want it to be that way. I want this to be not such a depressing update. I want to leave the door open to hope. And basically, I will always have some sort of hope because the universe is random. Even today, right, in my new job, I met some people that I had met previously in other programs that I did, in other learnings that I did, and I was shocked because one of the main things, especially if you know history, is there's a lot of crazy random encounters, chances, coincidences in history, in life, that you wouldn't think are possible because of the chances, but they are, and they happen. And, maybe that's just us not knowing statistics, not knowing how the machinations of the universe work, whether it's by a greater power or by pure chance, whatever it might be. Things can happen that you don't expect. And that's kind of the mantra I always held even when younger. When I was younger, I was very staunchly supporting this. And I'm talking about when I was like 8. I said when I was 8, I will never ever basically cut the candle short, if you know what I'm talking about, because it is basically throwing away the chance for things to get better. Now, as I've gotten older, my opinions might have changed, but regardless, this is where I will always still have a sliver of hope, maybe until things get really bad. Let's just say World War III happens or something, because realistically speaking, the election is tomorrow and we don't know what's going to happen. Ironic if it does, though, after this. But regardless, yeah, so things are not going well on the house side. I don't expect them to get better. I basically foresee a life of loneliness, and sadly, again, this could be sort of a self fulfilling prophecy thing, but the one constant in my life, for better or for worse, is games. Now, a lot of people use different things to cope. I use a lot, I use games in a lot of different ways. I do still enjoy them. Obviously, they've become so part of the routine that I'm kind of stuck playing the same ones, and most of the time I might not be having fun. I'm not miserable playing them specifically. I'm more miserable at other things that are going on in life, like I've described. But this is where, the sad one constant is gaming. So, even if I'm alone, even if things change, which they will, and sadly I think it's for the worst, gaming will be there, and I do take that as one of the last bastions that I don't think can be taken away, unless again World War III happens, where at least I have that. Will that be enough for me? I don't think so. But again, hopefully, if suffering happens, if change happens, and the change is good, hopefully. But either way, to kind of get away from the depressing stuff, that's basically most of what I want to say in the Chris Allen recap. Sadly, it's very different from all the things that I wanted to say. I thought of like 20 different scenarios of how to introduce this, how to end this, what to talk about. And as always, a lot of the things I wanted to say are gone. A lot of the things I never planned to say are in here. And, that's how we kind of do it when going off the cuff here. But either way, I really do hope that people enjoyed this. I know people were asking for the Chris Allen recaps back. Certain people were. And I always kept telling them, it's not popular, it's not good, no one liked it. And they're like, no, we like it, we like it. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at the viewership for the old ones, and these shits were not watched. But either way, like I said, when suffering happens, change happens, and in the smallest way so far, it made me do another Chris on recap. So if you did enjoy it, please let me know. At the end of the day, I really hope people can glean something from this, if not about me, if you're not interested in me, at least for yourself, right? Value time more, hate work more, because, God, can I just make like a ton of videos about hating work and how it's terrible and horrible. But again, it's probably an overreaction, but who knows? Work is still terrible no matter how much time passes, how much time I'm in a job. And this is the sad reality where a lot of people sadly do not like their job. And I think the biggest thing is to almost go on another entire tangent, which could be its own video. I think a lot of jobs sadly don't incentivize and don't offer enough for the people to put up with it. A lot of times now, economics are getting way worse. Excuse me, the wealth divide is getting way bigger in our country, and and in the United States. I don't know about the world, but classic American, right? But the wealth divide is getting bigger. A lot of things are getting worse, and it's basically going to be: are you on this side of the fence or that side? Where are you fucked or are you okay? So hopefully I'm gonna be on one rather than the other. But I forgot where I was gonna go with this, but essentially speaking, things are just getting worse overall in general, and hopefully we have hope, and things changing, especially suffering, brings good things. That's where I'll leave it to not go on too many tangential things that I might just drop halfway through because I forget. But either way, I do hope that again people gleaned something from this, and if you wanted more news or more updates on me, that's basically it. That's what's going on now. This is how I foresee the future going. I don't know how long I'm gonna work, but all I'll know is even if the situation might be worse off when I'm unemployed, if I'm unemployed in the future, I'll still probably love it more because God, do I hate working. But either way, that's gonna be it. I really hope everyone enjoyed, and if you want more, please let me know. That's about it. Watch me at Twitch TV Tecnics channel too, where I'm mostly gonna be chilling.